Promotions happen because other people are on board with your promotion, not just your boss. Welcome to Women Changing Leadership. I am your host, Stacy Mayer, and I teach you how to get promoted, get paid, and bring your whole self to the leadership table. I am on a mission to change organizations from the C-suite out, because women are the new face of leadership, and we are doing it on our terms. Hello, corporate badasses. Welcome to another episode of Women Changing Leadership. I am your host, Stacy Mayer, and super excited, as always, to be here with you again this week. Today's episode comes from one of the women inside of the Women's Leadership Accelerator and several of the women that I have coached throughout the years to take their promotion across the finish line. And so basically what that means is it's one thing to get promised a promotion, and it's another thing to actually get a promotion. So in today's episode, I'm going to share with you exactly how you can make that happen to make sure that you never lose out or get passed over for a promotion again. Now, before I get into that, I want to share with you one of my goals as a coach is to make my work redundant. And here's what I mean. So a lot of women come to me, really at this point of a breaking point, right? So whether I have a toxic boss or I've been unemployed or I'm in a situation where I have been undervalued for so long, I can no longer work at this company, or I want to switch industries and I have no idea how to make that happen. So at these really crucial moments in their career, and they want to do something different with it. And this can feel like a very insurmountable goal. It can feel like something they've been working on for a very long time. And then they start working with me, whether it's one-on-one coaching or inside the Women's Leadership Accelerator, whatever that might be. They start working with me, and actually their problems are no longer their problems. And I think that is an amazing thing. So it is really actually a thing that you can overcome something that you've been working on for multiple years. Like, let's say, being stuck at the director level for 5-6 years, trying to get out of it, being promised a promotion, being denied a promotion. And then all of a sudden, it works. It works out in just like 6 weeks because you stop doing the thing that isn't working and you start doing something else. And so my goal as a coach, as your coach, is to show you that something else that you haven't been trying that actually works better, faster, more effectively, sets you up for more success in the long run. So now back to my client's story. All right. So this woman joined the Women's Leadership Accelerator, I think back in April. And very quickly after joining, she just latched onto my 15-minute ally meeting method. This is my trust building method to actually build trust with executive leadership so that they become our allies and not just colleagues or mentors or like a boss's boss or a boss's boss's boss. And so when I proposed this concept to her, it was very new. She had never thought about reaching out to her boss's boss's boss in her whole career, right? This had never even occurred to her as being something that she could do. And of course, that makes sense because not everybody's doing it. And also, what would I even say to this person? What would I do, right? So I gave her the words. I said, this is what you're going to do in this conversation. And then she was like, okay, fine. So she wasn't afraid to have the conversation. She just, one, had never thought of it. And two, she didn't know what to actually say. So once I gave her those words and also introduced the idea that it was even possible, she jumped on it immediately. In her very first conversation, I think she met with her boss's boss's boss and her boss's boss. And anyway, the idea is that it's people who aren't her boss. She had mentioned to her that she was looking to advance her career. And she didn't ask about how can I do that? She actually asked the woman that she was having the conversation with about her career, right? How did she grow in her career? How did she move up levels? What were some of the things that worked with her to help her advance? And this woman, she actually turned to her and she's like, wow, that is really good to know. I didn't actually know that you wanted to be promoted. Listen to this. I didn't actually know that you wanted to be promoted. Now I can help you. That's what she said to her. My client was floored. She's probably a client for life now because this one single moment literally changed everything in how she set up for the rest of her career at this company, but beyond this company, because now she knows what it actually takes to advance, right? Okay. So now today's episode, that's the backstory, but today's episode is actually about how do you get that promotion across the finish line. So this particular woman, she proposed, hey, I can help you get there. Fast forward another month, and she is actually being told that she's going to be promoted in January of 2026. Yay, that's so exciting, right? You might be somebody who's been told before that you're going to be promoted at the next performance cycle, at the next performance review, or your boss says, hey, you're going to be my successor. Now I have the bad news. For all the women who've been told that they're going to be their boss's successor or they're going to be promoted in January of 2026, this is not a guarantee that you'll actually become your boss's successor and or be promoted in the next 3 to 6 months. And this is the first moment of awareness and wake-up call that I want to give to you so that you begin to do something different. You know what I loved about my clients when she told the group that she was going to be promoted in January. And of course, we all celebrated and gave her the emojis and the fireworks and all the things. And then I didn't even have to say it. She said, now I need to make that happen. I was like, oh my God, you're so amazing. You get it, right? This is the transformation that we do with my work, right? Is that I'm truly transforming the way you think about your career development and promotion cycles and opportunities and impact, right? And so the first words out of her mouth was, now I need to actually make sure that happens. And so now we can get to work and figure out ways to make sure that happens. Now, when I say this to you, I want you to ask yourself, what's the first thing that you think you have to do, quote unquote, to make sure that happens? Like, really ask yourself. I'll pause for just to have a second to give you an opportunity to say, okay, what is the first thing I would need to do to make sure that my promotion actually happens? I'm going to guess at some of the answers that might come up. And if you've been following me for a while, listening to my podcast, or perhaps you're in one of my coaching programs, congratulations. And you might have a different answer. But the common answers would be to keep doing good work, right? To continue showing myself, proving myself, make sure that I am delivering, right? And also, like, I guess, besides that, the most proactive thing you could do is keep asking for it, right? Like, and that second one doesn't even make sense. Like, what would you do? You keep doing your work, you do a good job. That's within your control. And then you're going to like go up to your boss's boss every 3 weeks and be like, okay, so am I still in line for that promotion? No, that seems weird and like needy and clingy. And then your boss's boss would probably just say, keep working hard, keep doing what you're doing. And then you get stuck and you're like, oh, I don't even know if this is going to work out. Right. So you see where I'm going with this. Now, the problem, and you've heard me say this before, but if you haven't, it's really good to reiterate. When you focus solely on your work and having a good work product, while that is a baseline, right? So every woman listening to this podcast, check yourself. Are you a corporate badass? Do you deliver quality work? The answer is probably yes, right? You deliver quality work. Now, why isn't that enough? Why isn't it enough to just deliver good work, to deliver on your projects? It's because, one, nobody knows about the great work that you're doing. And two, it may not be the work that actually gets you to that next level. So let's say you're at a senior director level and you're producing projects at a senior director level. That might not be the same projects or the same set of skills that are going to make you be successful at that VP level, right? So if you're looking to make that leap into higher levels of executive leadership, there's typically other skills that you need to begin to showcase to show that you can lead at the executive level, right? And so again, I have multiple podcast episodes on this. What do you need to do differently at the VP level than at the director level? But for now, I just want you to realize that your current hard work, like delivering on your work product, is not enough to get you promoted, right? This isn't because of today's job market and the competition is fierce. This is the rules that have always existed in executive leadership. So having those allies is critical, critical, critical to your success, right? Actually knowing what it's going to take to become that next level, whatever that might be for you, is critical to actually getting your promotion across the finish line, right? Because again, a promotion promise is not the same as actually getting a promotion. I don't have to tell you this. You've probably had it happen in reverse. So if that has happened to you, I'm sorry. I feel for you, but never again. Right? All right. Okay, so now I'm going to give you a totally different scenario so that I can paint a little bit of a picture of one of the things that you can begin to do to get your promotion across the finish line. And it's a scenario of a woman who is very, very well respected, and she's an excellent subject matter expert. She is functioning at the senior manager level, but actually functioning. She is called a senior manager, but actually delivering at a high level director level, right? The team size is much bigger than it should be at a senior manager level. She has a lot of responsibility at the organization. You know, if it were up to her quote unquote boss, she would have been promoted by now. Okay. So this is the story that her beloved boss keeps telling her. And he tells her over and over again, you know, I really want to promote you when the timing's right. I'm going to promote you. You're doing great, great work. Keep doing what you're doing. It's excellent, excellent work. I love what you're doing. Keep doing what you're doing. I'm just going to keep going because this is like the mantra that keeps coming up for so many women who are stuck in these lower levels of management. So she loves this boss. She thinks he's amazing. She thinks that he's super supportive of her. Red flag. I want you to stop right here. If your boss is the only person at your organization who thinks you're amazing, the chance of you actually getting that promised promotion. So he's essentially promising her a promotion. He didn't give her a date, but you know, most women are just like, yay, that's great. I'm going to get a promotion. And whenever it happens, it happens. That's fantastic, right? Years go by, it never happens. Okay. So first of all, years go by, it never happens. Then worst case scenario happens. Her boss leaves the organization. Her boss left the company. So you can imagine what happens to her promised promotion. It instantly evaporates, instantly. So she's been functioning at this higher level director level for a while now. She's still a senior manager. Even if they promoted her, they would barely level set what she's already doing. Like nothing would actually change for her job description. And if they tried to change her job description, then she'd be functioning even higher director level, right? So now everything is a mess. Introduce Stacy Mayer Coaching. She hires me as her one-on-one coach, and we work through this process, all right? So now she has a new boss, and she doesn't like her new boss because he's not as supportive. He doesn't want to talk about her promotion path. He doesn't want to talk about her promised promotions. He doesn't really want to talk to her about anything except for work. And she's upset, right? She's like, oh, you know, I lost all this time and now I have to start over with this boss who doesn't even care. Ding, 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 highlight. All right. I don't care that her boss doesn't care. All right. So when we're talking about shifting our mindsets, it's like, how do you get into my brain and the way that I see relationships at your work and how promotions actually happen? All right. So promotions, this is lesson number 1. Promotions don't happen because of promises from your boss. The key word here is boss. All right. Promotions happen because other people are on board with your promotion, not just your boss. Now, your boss is very important, but other people have to be on board with your promotion, not just your boss. All right. So lesson number 1, promotions don't happen just because your boss is on board with it. So I don't really care that her boss isn't wanting to talk to her about her promotion path because I'm like, he'll come around. He's only been working with you for a little while. He's trying to see if he can trust your work and what you're delivering and all of these things. But I said, who can we focus on instead? What about his boss? And she was like, what? What do you mean? And I was like, let's have conversations with his boss, not just him, but his boss. Now, guess what? These conversations with his boss, so she starts to do them. She does what I say. And they're so much more enjoyable, right? Because her boss's boss is way more connected to the organization. He has so much more to talk about. She doesn't even have to talk about her work. He just wants to talk about concepts and what's happening at the company. And he's giving her all of this intel. Now she has a better understanding about how her work product and the work that she's doing actually matters to the organization. She's also able to have really deep intellectual conversations with him because he's been thinking about the industry for a while. These are all things that her boss is probably capable of having as well, but her boss needs something from her. So his time is very limited, and he's only going to really be able to talk to her about product, like producing work, right? But her boss's boss, if she is using his time, he wants to talk about something else other than work because he doesn't delegate to her, he delegates to her boss, right? So he's not going to talk to her a lot about her delivery because he knows that he'll be stepping on his direct report's toes, right? So he's willing to talk to her about anything else besides what she's actually working on. And all of those things above what she's working on is what's actually going to get her promoted. All right. Do you hear this? That's lesson number 2, is that anything above what you're actually working on, any conversations that you can be having surrounding the work that you do, not just the delivery of the work, but why the work matters, what the impact it's having on the organization, other people that you're pulling in, decisions that you're making at that higher level, exposure that you're getting at that higher level, not just on the delivery of the product, but in actually how you're thinking about it and how you're tying things together and making decisions. Hello, this is what it takes to become a vice president or above, is that you're a decision maker, not just a subject matter expert, right? So all of this is coming together because she is able to communicate more about the impact of her work that she's quote unquote already doing, right? Okay. So that's lesson number 2. Now, I want to go back to this scenario of your boss leaves the organization and you have nobody left who even knows that you were up for a promotion. Imagine a scenario where this boss's boss's boss leaves the company, okay? And he had told you that you were going to get a promotion, and he was very excited about putting you up for promotion. He also told his direct report and that person's direct report. He's told executive leadership. Perhaps he's talked about the work that you're doing. Perhaps he's sharing with others about the work that you're doing. So now multiple people know not only that you're sort of promised a promotion, but that you're qualified for that promotion, right? More people than just your boss are cheerleading you and championing you, right? So when you have multiple people on board with the work that you're doing, meaning the higher level impact of the work that you're doing, now if somebody leaves the organization, it's less relevant. Right? So do you see where I'm going here? So let's say the boss's boss leaves the company. Well, other people are still on board with her work and the impact that she's making. They know about these promises. Let's say her boss leaves the organization. Well, her boss's boss also knows about the work she's doing. So other people always know about the impact that you're making. So, lesson number 3 is that your boss is not the only one responsible for your promotion, right? It's important that other people know about the work that you're doing. So, when I go back to my current client inside of the accelerator and she says, okay, how can I get this promotion in January across the finish line? I'm like, okay, first of all, you're already winning because this promotion wasn't just promised to you by your boss, it was promised to you by several people at the organization, right? And I think even human resources, right? So she's got lots and lots of people on board with this idea of a promotion. Now, if she's not going to just go up to them and say, hey, reminder, I'm getting promoted in January, right? If she's not just going to do that every single week when she has a one-on-one, what is she going to do instead? Go back to lesson number 2, and she's actually going to talk about anything other than the work that she's doing, right? She's going to go much more high level, making sure she's continuing to have conversations. And, occasionally she can say, is this on track, right, for what is going to be needed to ensure, like, how can I help you to make my case for promotion in January easier, right? So every now and then she can mention the promotion, but really for the most part, it's just continuing to have those higher level impact conversations and just ensuring that she's setting herself up for success, right? That's it. And if you do that, not only are you enjoying the process a lot more, but you're making sure that it actually comes to fruition, right? You see how all of this works? It's so important not to get fixated on any one factor when it comes to getting a promotion. And that one factor typically ends up being the boss and the actual word promotion, right? So, meaning I'm going to be fixated on my boss and convincing my boss that I'm ready for a promotion, right? So that he knows everything that I'm working on that makes me ready for a promotion. And instead, the overall philosophy and what you need to be doing is building allies across your organization and focusing instead on the impact of the work that you're doing to the larger organization, not just the work itself, but making sure it's work that actually matters to people, making sure that you're actually communicating with people and those connections that are being made, right? Building allyship with your peers, expanding beyond the work that you're doing. When you do that, you very rarely, the only scenario that I see happening for you not to get your promotion in January is if you decide to leave the company or your promotion becomes redundant and you're just like, I don't even want to work in this group anymore, right? But those are your choices. You stop feeling like you got passed over for a promotion. If all of a sudden they decide to create some big role and put somebody directly above you and restructure the group and you get pushed down, that is a very different scenario than you focusing on proving yourself, making sure that you're doing a good job, and then all of a sudden your boss leaves the company and you're screwed. Or focusing on your work, making sure that you're doing a good job, and then all of a sudden all these org changes happen and then you're screwed, but you haven't built any allies and you don't really have something set up next, right? Very disempowering. The work that we're doing inside the Women's Leadership Accelerator, which is my most accessible way of working with me directly, and you actually get the opportunity to work directly with women who have used my process over the past 5, 6, 7 years to get multiple higher level promotions, right? So I spoke at the beginning of this conversation with making sure that my work is redundant as your coach. And what I mean by that is like your immediate goal is going to get solved so quickly that we have other things to work on, right? We just keep building and building and building. And this is part of becoming an authentically powerful corporate badass so that you can not only manage your own career, but you're directing it. You're in the driver's seat. You're making stuff happen for yourself on a regular basis. You anticipate and know the rocks to turn over, where to look, the doors that are opening for you. You're ready to say yes, because the truth is you are a corporate badass. You're good at what you do. We just have to do something different if we want to actually take your career to that next level. So thank you all so much for listening to me today. And I hope you're able to start to think about your promotion path in a different way so that you can begin to make those changes. And if you want my help by your side, holding your hand as you go through this process, I invite you to join me inside of the Women's Leadership Accelerator. It's the end of 2025. If you're wanting to set yourself up for success this year so that you can have an even stronger 2026 than you even imagined, then get yourself in there. It's a month-to-month membership program. You can join us anytime. You can cancel it anytime. I welcome you anytime. We have calls every single week. So if you join today, you can join the live call this very week. I cannot wait to meet you. And I can't wait to see the leadership tables that you're gracing with your presence in the very near future. Thank you all so much for listening, and I'll see you next week. Bye. Thank Thank you so much for listening to Women Changing Leadership with Stacy Mayer. If you enjoyed this episode, you are absolutely going to love and benefit from the work that we're doing inside of the Women's Leadership Accelerator. This month-to-month membership program is unlike anything else in the market. We are single-handedly flipping the unemployment rates on their head. It is the only place on the internet where you can actually get yourself not only a job offer, but one that has a higher salary, a higher title, and more recognition and influence than you ever could have imagined in your career. Inside the Women's Leadership Accelerator, we are getting women promoted. We are getting them multiple higher level job offers. And I want that to happen for you. Join us in this one-of-a-kind program. You're going to get coaching directly from me, my executive mentors who are also hiring managers who are doing the work, who have worked with me personally for the past 3 to 5 years. We are here inside of this accelerator program to work with you personally to begin to elevate your leadership to that next level. This is exactly what you have been looking for, and I am here to deliver it to you. Best thing, it's month to month. So you can come in, join us, get access to all of my training materials, my weekly live interactive calls, and you can begin to bring your friends into this community. It is the most corporate badass community on the market. I can't wait to see you in there. Go to authenticallypowerfulwomen.com. We are changing the face of the leadership table one promotion at a time. I can't wait to see you there.